Thank you everyone who has joined us today for Office of Community Renewal office hours. Those of you who have joined have noted we are making our whole Office of Community Renewal team available for about an hour on the first Wednesday of every month. So we encourage you to join us anytime you want to ask a variety of program teams casual questions or just have some access to the program staff for general information. We are updating the format of the office hours today and with sessions moving forward where we're going to focus on a specific topic and provide a specific presentation. We will record this portion of the office hours session and post it online for everyone to access and see outside of office hours, but hopefully in some encouragement to join us in future sessions. So today we are going to just provide a small update on some OCR information, and then we're going to have a presentation from Marge McAllister on our home program team on the new-ish home buyer development activity, and then we will open it up to Q&A for anybody who's joining us from outside the OCR team today. So I think the first and major update that we wanted to share was just to talk about the year in review for 2024. So just sharing a roll up of all of the funding activity in the 2024 calendar year. As you know, we have many different funding cycles throughout the year. We have a traditional housing round that's competitive and occurs one time per year. We have open round economic development activity, and then we have certain activities that appear within the New York State Consolidated Funding Application. And then this year we had the addition of a couple of new programs, including the Vacant Rental Improvement Program and awards under a Targeted Home Improvement Program. So you can see, this is a couple hundred contracts and 175 million in activity among each of these programs. We anticipate a similar year for 2025, and we will operate just as we did in 2024, where within a couple of months following the completion of the New York State budget cycle, we will open a funding opportunity and we will release our planned funding round schedule for the full calendar year that will lay out the timelines and deadlines for the year ahead. And then just one note to highlight, as you probably know, throughout the year, we have training sessions for program-specific materials. The end of 2024 was a lot of different awards, as shown on the slide before. The Main Street program made awards in the Main Street program made awards in November of 2024, and tomorrow they'll be hosting an information session, which is like a debrief on the application review process. So this is generally intended for unsuccessful Main Street applicants to get some feedback on areas of improvement, common deficiencies that we see in applications, but it's not restricted only to those unsuccessful applicants. We think that this is really the most detailed application preparation training session that we offer. So we certainly encourage anyone who's interested in pursuing a New York Main Street program application to join this session tomorrow. You're muted, Jessica, if you're trying to add.
Sorry, I was just trying to copy the link. I'll put the link afterwards in the chat so everyone can get that, because I don't think you can get it the way it is.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then next, we're going to hand it over to Marge McAllister from our home team to highlight an activity that was relaunched last year and is offering a new type of assistance under our federally funded home program. So thank you, Marge.
Thank you, Crystal. My name is Marjorie McAllister, and I'm the Assistant Director of the New York State Home Program. And I work with a great team in the home program. And like Crystal mentioned, we have put together previously offered, but now reoffered and revamped homebuyer development activity that I'll be going over today. Next slide, please. Great. The homebuyer development activity is part of the federal home program. For those of you who don't know, HOME is the largest federal block grant to state and local governments designed exclusively to create affordable housing for low-income households. Homebuyer development is one of 5 activities that the New York State Home Program administers for the Office of Community Renewal. So through the home local side, as we call it, under the Office of Community Renewal. So I'm not talking about our larger scale finance and development projects or home art, but homebuyer development is the only home local direct to developer development activity that we currently administer. And we offer this through an open funding round process. The remainder of home activities that are funded are locally administered programs, which are awards to nonprofits to support homeowners and renters, and is funded through an annual competitive round that typically opens each summer. Crystal mentioned that earlier. So these include tenant-based rental assistance for households at or below 60% of AMI, manufactured home replacement for households at or below 80% of AMI, owner-occupied rehab for households at or below 80% of AMI, and homebuyer down payment assistance for households at or below 80% of AMI. So the homebuyer development activity is a development resource for the creation or rehabilitation of 4 or less units of single-family homes to be resold to a home-eligible buyer at or below 80% of AMI. Next slide, please. The ultimate goal of this activity and offering is to increase the supply of single-family affordable housing throughout New York State. So I'll break down the components just to be clear about what is eligible activities for this funding. So home funds for homebuyer development can be used to support and fund the substantial rehab or new construction of 4 or less homes owned by a nonprofit or CHOTA developer that will result in code compliance, which is then sold to home eligible buyers. So this can include acquisition related to the project, but home wouldn't be able to reimburse for the cost of acquisition for a property that has been, lingering in your inventory that wasn't purchased for the purpose of this project. New construction may include non-traditional or innovative models such as modular or manufactured housing, 3D printing housing, or other as approved. The activity is focused on single-family homes that will be owned and lived in by one family for the period of affordability. So the activity is open to nonprofit housing developers with a preference for community housing development organizations or CHOTOs. For those who don't know, a CHOTO is a private nonprofit community-based organization that directly employs staff with the capacity to develop affordable housing for the community it serves. To qualify for CHOTO designation, the organization must meet certain requirements pertaining to legal status, board composition, and capacity and experience. If you don't know if your organization could qualify as a CHOTO or think that your organization may qualify, you can go to our website, the New York State Home website, to look at the application for CHOTO certification for more information. The maximum award for this activity is $1 million for 4 homes, or a maximum per unit subsidy of $250,000, or up to the max per unit home subsidy, whichever is less, depending on the number of bedrooms proposed. For example, the max subsidy for 1 bedroom is less than $250,000. So ultimately, this is for nonprofits, for CHOTO developers to substantially rehab 4 or less homes. And they must meet code compliance and homeownership design standards, and then they must sell to a home eligible buyer. We are offering this funding round for this, we offered a funding round last year for this activity, and this funding round for this year will be making $10 million available. Stay tuned for dates and deadlines and check back on our website for the 2025 funding round. Next slide, please. Here are a list of our recent awards. As you can see, we have several Habitat awardees, but also a nonprofit developer. You can see that the projects vary across the amount awarded, the size of the project, and the construction type. This activity can be catered to what is needed in your community and you can use the most effective construction method to meet those needs. Just to read through, Syracuse Habitat for Humanity received $1 million for the new construction of 4 stick-built homes. Better Housing for Tompkins County received $784,000 and some change for the placement of 4 new manufactured homes. Ulster County Habitat for Humanity received $1 million for the new construction of 3 modular homes and 1 stick-built home, so they're mixing construction methods for their project. And Steuben County Habitat for Humanity received $245,000 and some change for the new construction of 1 modular home. So just varies across what each group wants and needs to do. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process. We learned a lot in the last round and made many tweaks to our application and workbook and related materials. So due to the newishness of the offering, we found that the applications received in the last round were not fully baked to meet home guidelines in some cases, and we entered into a lengthy back and forth underwriting process. So one thing to note is we fully underwrite an application to meet home guidelines and standards before an award is approved, which is unlike some of our other programs that get awarded before underwriting is completed. So keep that in mind from the outset if you are applying when managing applications on the award process. So ahead of applying, please, before even our round opens, if you're interested, you can review the application materials on our website from our last round. Updated versions will be posted prior to the opening of the 2025 open round, but make sure when the round opens to use the latest version and don't rely on materials you may have downloaded last year because they will be updated, but the materials that are on the website will give you a good basis for preparing your application when the funding round does open. When you're into completing an application, carefully review and answer the prompts and include information from the project and Homebuyer underwriting guidelines that are posted on our website to ensure compliance with home HUD regulations, rules and regulations. Make sure on the outset that our threshold items are in place, things such as site control and firm funding commitments. Home has to be the last funding in, and we can't commit home funds until all other funding commitments are in place, so keep that in mind. If you have other sources of funding going into a project. Before you submit your application, it's really important to note that the clock starts on choice limiting action. So essentially any physical changes to the project site, including acquisition, until the environmental clearance is achieved. So consider if this works for your other funding sources or pending transactions. Application submission constitutes a formal consideration of the use of federal funds. So applications with pending purchases must not make any choice limiting actions, and any activity related to the proposed project should generally pause once the application is started until you receive receipt of environmental approval to complete a purchase. If costs are incurred, the funding for the application and future funding, federal funding, may be jeopardized. So it's super important you consider this. Besides those tips, a big thing we would recommend is, we as a team are super accessible. So reach out to the home program email box to schedule a technical assistance meeting prior to submitting your application. Though it's not a requirement, it's a big undertaking to complete the application, and we want to make sure your project will be eligible from the outset to avoid any delays or confirm its eligibility itself. So those are just some tips to consider. So this is a brief overview and introduction to homebuyer development, but to get you familiar with the offering, if this presentation didn't apply to you or you weren't, that's not what brought you to the office hours, that's okay. And if you work with other organizations in your network that might benefit from this funding, spread the word and, let them know if this might be a fit for them. So with that, I'll open up the floor to any questions that I I can try to answer. And if you have questions later that we'll follow up with you, you can email our home program email box.
Thank you, Marge.
Welcome.